This is a pretty wild story that keeps coming across my feed. Police in Arizona say the husband of a popular mom influencer, Emilie Kiser, placed a $25 NBA bet around the time their 3-year-old son drowned in the family's backyard pool. The little boy Trigg was found in the water for several minutes before being discovered. Prosecutors have decided no charges will be filed. But the case is raising major concerns about distractions, responsibility, and parenting under the spotlight. First, for those who don't follow her, Emilie Kiser is a 26-year-old lifestyle content creator with a massive online following. She has over 3.5 million followers on TikTok and around 1.8 million on Instagram. Her videos cover motherhood, beauty routines, fashion hauls, and candid day in the life content featuring her 2 young children, Trigg and her newborn son, Teddy. She's collaborated with major brands like Lululemon, Sephora, and Rare Beauty. On May 12, 2025, in Chandler, Arizona, Brady Kiser, Emilie's husband, was home with Trigg and their newborn while Emilie was out. According to the police report, surveillance footage showed Trigg was unsupervised for about 9 minutes during that time. He tripped and fell into the backyard pool while playing with an inflatable chair. He remained in the water for about 7 minutes before being discovered. Tragically, Trigg passed away 6 days later on May 18th. The investigation revealed that Brady had been watching the NBA playoff game Celtics versus Knicks during the incident. Police obtained records from the DraftKings showing that at 5:14 p.m. Arizona time, he placed a wager, a $25 wager on Jayson Tatum to score more than 40 points. He won the bet, paying out $102.50. The report concluded that Brady's attention was divided at the time. Investigators also noted the pool cover was off. Some doors were not self-closing, and multiple alarms reportedly did not sound. Chandler Police recommended a Class 4 felony for CA charge, but on July 25th, 2025, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office declined to prosecute, saying there was no reasonable likelihood of conviction under Arizona's criminal negligence standard. Wow. The case drew enormous public interest because Emilie's influencer status. Court rulings allowed parts of the police report to be redacted to protect the dignity of the child, but the timeline, betting record, and surveillance details were made public. So I guess because of the law in Arizona, this guy, the father, was maybe spared. It seems like that's what happened if they're not prosecuting or going further with the charges. It says that Arizona's CA law, to convict someone of criminal CA, you must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that someone intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly caused or permitted a child to suffer physical injury or endangerment. For criminal negligence, the standard is that the person failed to perceive a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the result would occur, and that failure is a gross deviation from what a reasonable person would do. It also says prosecutors said the facts didn't meet the high bar for criminal negligence under Arizona law. Even if Brady was distracted by the basketball game and the $25 bet, the state would have to convince all 12 jurors that his actions were a gross deviation from reasonable parenting and directly caused the child's death. So Arizona law does allow for civil liability. Let me show you this clip too from Law and Crime. This lawyer that
start
they had
with this,
on,
the
defense
core
lawyer.
question. What typically rises to the level of criminal child abuse under Arizona law, specifically a Class 4 felony based on criminal negligence?
Well, Jesse, thanks for having me. First, to answer that question, I think typically the key word in the statute that you read to the folks is gross deviation. It's a gross deviation from what a reasonable person would do. Was Brady's conduct so bad, so out of the ordinary of what a reasonable person who's going to care for a child would be to rise to that level? It's a very kind of esoteric standard, kind of like back in the old days when you say, you kind of know it when you see it. But it is substantial. It can't just be an accident. It just can't be negligence. It has to be gross negligence, super, super bad. For instance, you leave a child outside by a pool that's uncovered knowingly, family and you go in and you play video games for 15 hours and don't. That's a gross deviation. That's no question. Other areas you get a little bit closer, right? Like you knew the cover was off the pool and you weren't paying attention to the child because you were washing your car. Well, maybe that is. So that's what the Maricopa County Attorney's Office looks at, and that's what they decide they would have to present to a jury and determine if there's a reasonable likelihood that that jury would find that this conduct was so outrageous it rises to a criminal level.
And if you take the narrative that he was watching and caring for his newborn, I think people would struggle to say, how is that negligence?
Well, the whole story too that I heard is that there wasn't, they didn't fully come out with the whole thing. Like his story allegedly didn't match up or line up, and he was claiming that he was taking care of the newborn, but they said he was actually betting and watching a game. And so the story came out that, well, I guess he was betting. Maybe he could say he was trying to watch the kid.
Per se, I mean, because the Chandler PD, they recommended a charge. The Maricopa County prosecutors didn't. They declined to prosecute. Is it all based on the surveillance footage, the timeline? I mean, what do you think made that decision?
I think, again, I'm speculating a little bit, but when I was at that county attorney's office, I prosecuted child abuse cases, and so did Rachel Mitchell, who's the actual county attorney now, who's in charge. So she has experience in this. I suspect, based on the Maricopa County statement, where they use the word timeline and surveillance footage, that Chandler Police received a statement from Brady that gave them an initial timeline. And then they went out and they collected those surveillance footage videos. They collected other things. And I suspect that the timeline that Brady provided them didn't totally match up with what the physical evidence was. Maybe Trigg was out there a lot longer than Brady told the police. And that's why the police are like, hey, he's trying to cover something up. He really wasn't in there taking care of his child for a few minutes. He was in there for 2 hours or whatever it may be. But clearly the county attorney's office looked at it and said that discrepancy, if that is even the case, isn't enough for us to go forward. Because, of course, somebody that just went through a traumatic situation, somebody that just lost their 3-year-old child to a drowning isn't going to be perfectly accurate with everything they say. I'm sure they're hysterical. They're in shock.
This is definitely negligence to me, I guess, to the law, and I guess what they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and the time frame and timeline. A tragic story, but it also makes me think of that grandmother. You guys remember this story? Let me show you a clip. We've covered this on the main channel. There was this grandmother that had 2 grandkids on separate occasions die under her watch. I think the first one drowned. The second one she forgot in a hot car. They actually charged her. This was Florida.
Brady County today, the Wauchula grandmother who left her 7-month-old granddaughter in a hot car to die was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The punishment comes after a jury found Tracy Nix guilty of leaving the child unattended in her vehicle. Fox 13's Kimberly Quizan spoke to Nix's daughter, who tells her she didn't want it to get to this point, but she wanted justice.
For nearly 2.5 long years, Drew and Kayla Shaw continue to carry the pain of losing their daughter, Uriel.
When she was born, she was our angel child. She looked so much like her son.
Uriel was born out of grief, but brought happiness. Nearly 11 months after their son, 16-month-old Ezra, had wandered out of his grandparents' Wauchula home and drowned in a pond. His grandmother, Tracy Nix, says she had fallen asleep and he got it out of the house.
We took that like it was done.
That was a crazy story. She was actually sentenced for the second child, the hot car incident, not the first incident. Really just wild story, and it makes you wonder how many kids does it take for somebody to have these deaths, accidental deaths. I mean, I understand accidents happen, but this is a life, right? You can't go back. That's it. But I guess with the law, I almost wonder if they just don't see it's worth it. I wonder if the prosecutors just like, the chances are going to be hard. It's an uphill battle. I don't know. Really sad, senseless, needless, and I don't know. I guess we'll see how can they recover from this. Maybe they can try to advocate for swimming stuff for kids, or it's just a horrible thing. And all for allegedly a bet, a $25 bet and a $100 win. Insane, huh? I don't think those kids at that age should be. I don't let my daughter outside by herself. You know, when I have her, even now at this age, at 8, I don't let her by herself. I always go with her. I'm with, I'm not trying to like, but if we're going to go to the pool, if we're going to go here, if you're going to be outside playing or whatever, I'm going to be there with you in that moment, and if we have to go inside for a little bit, I understand maybe that's maybe a little difficult. You're at a house, you feel comfortable, but even at a house, so with the pool, man, it's just not worth it, But yeah, take care, guys. Appreciate you so much. Love you. Bye. Bloop, 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 bloop.